Okay, and so welcome back to part two of our webinar series. The first webinar, we had touched on a little bit of an intro on my playing career as an athlete, but also a book that has changed so much for me. And in today, or today's part, we will be touching on chapter two and a little bit more into my soccer career. And so back then, I had played for a club called Cape Town Angels. And before Cape Town Angels was birthed, we had a soccer school called Jogo Bonito Soccer School. And I remember we were these little girls in these blue shorts and these yellow sweaters that had our logo on and our logo at the back. And we were training for months on end. We were training indoors in halls. We were training in Greenpoint on like the tennis courts. We were training on the field. We were training and training and training, preparing us for, the bigger picture of a superstar or a player playing for clubs. And the goal back then was to develop us as players or develop players for the existing teams that were back then. But that model didn't work because clubs did not have junior players. And so that is part of the reasons why Angels was born. We were training, like I said, we were training and training. And even as Angels, we had literally been on a field and on a court all the time. And it was a platform back then that would have or would launch superstars. And part of being at Angels, my time was being a coach. There was a coaching element to it where I had grown as a player, but also as a coach to the younger girls that was in our Angels. I don't know if you want to call it academy, let's say club, our Angels club, where we had two groups. We had us as the senior players and the older girls. And then we also had a younger group of girls that went through the same system as us, where it was training on training on training. And I think one of the key things that helped me grow as a player, the player that I am today, was the ball skills that we did. I remember we had this tiny size, was size 2, size 3 ball, and all the skills we had to do around the ball just being still and then the ball moving. And that to me plays a major role in um, the touches I have today, the first touches, the controlling the ball, like all of that. And that complex techniques that we had to do then. But I feel like the skills and the hours that we had put in perfecting those skills is a big part of who I am today. And so I'm going to share some pictures and a little bit about what I was talking about now for you to understand where we're at. And so our first game or our first tournament that we played, we literally got into our club van, and I think the trip was about maybe 18 to 20 hours all the way up to Joburg. And we as girls loved the trip. It was the first time we had traveled together, but what an experience it was. Um, this, this was us little girls up in Joburg playing in their first tournament together, playing together as a club. With our little banner that we had created. But also, most importantly, or the important part of this picture was the lady behind us, and that is Fran Smith. She had or still has such a major impact in women's football, and what a opportunity for us to have met her back then, but also have the opportunity to take a photo with her and listen to some information and guidance that she could give us. You can see just on the right side of the goalkeeper, little Lindsay standing there, had the best time. I think I have, yes, look there, little little girl in her little legs, enjoying it. This was one of our matches in the tournament that we had played. And when I say to you, we had won every game in our tournament and we won the tournament for the first time playing. It was such an amazing experience. And every time we had scored as Angels, we needed to celebrate. We had all these weird celebrations going. We would run to the corner, we would run to the middle of the field. But every time it was a group or a girls or an angels thing that, hey, if we score, anybody who scores, we were going to celebrate. And so this is us. You can see me in the background there, just straight ahead, just being happy and enjoying the experience as a young girl. And I've played for many years, and this is just a small glimpse or a small highlight into where it had all started for me. And so, as I was saying, we are now into chapter 2 of a book that has made a significant impact on my life. I will share the part 1 with you or in my description. And today we're going to touch on part 2 or chapter 2 in the book. And the heading we have for today is tribal competition. So basically, the birth of social hierarchy. And let's touch on the agenda on what we're going to look at today, just in small snippets, as we continue on this webinar journey together. And so we'll look at what it is to go from survival to social power. What does the locker room hierarchy look like, or what is the key points that we can take out of that? How tribal leadership is earned, like modern tribal competition, like in today's sports and back then. What are the competitors versus the kings? And then key takeaways for athletes, pro athletes, athletes before, athletes are just starting, basically everyone in that bucket. And so let me just move that a little bit up so you can, oh, did I go all the way out? Okay, let's just start this again. Okay, my apologies. How do I, there we go. Okay, so the first heading we have is from survival to social power. And the first point is very important. Making the team is only the beginning. Back then, when I was a younger player, it wasn't such a big thing of, hey, I needed to make the team, because we were just this amount of, or we were this group of girls that were already the main players in the team. But as I got older and I played for other clubs, making the team was important. Making the team and securing your position as where you played. Like I am number 10 and an attacking midfielder. And so there were many girls who played that role. But what was I needed to work hard on my end and be the best at my role in order to make the team. But realizing now that that was only the beginning is definitely, or it was, a wake up call for me. And so once survival is secured, like your position, competition then shifts to dominance. And so sometimes we find competition within our team, or you see it in other teams of players wanting their position, and sometimes they get moved around to accommodate the team. But in order to accommodate, sorry, not in order to dominate your position and your role, you literally have to secure certain spots or certain things about you and your survival and where you are. And so athletes, a lot of the time, they compete for status, they compete for influence and long-term power. And so the power ladder that we are talking about today, or the book that I'm referring to, is all about control, and it's all about legacy. And so all clubs, many clubs have a locker room, and in the locker room you have different personalities, you have different positions as players, and it's very important that we understand the hierarchy that is in the locker room. And franchise players, they dictate the culture and they dictate the decisions. And we all know, like, if you have played for a club or you've seen locker room dynamics, there are certain players and there are certain decisions that are made by certain players. And franchise players, they dictate the culture. Like, what is the culture in the locker room? What is the culture in the club? What is the culture amongst players? If we look at business-minded athletes, they turned brand into empires. And we'll look at one or two people in the next few slides, where we have LeBron James, we have Cristiano Ronaldo, we have Lewis Hamilton, all those people that we will just touch on. Connectors, they gain leverage through relationships. A lot of my relationships that I have today is because of sport. A lot of my friends or my friend circle is because of the relationships I have built over the years through playing. And those relationships still last outside of sport. And it's very important that you gain leverage as you are growing up through the relationships with people. The disposable talent, they are the people that only rely on skill, but in time they get replaced. And I remember I could have been the most skillful player on the team. It was so easy to replace me as a player with the next girl that came in. And I remember there was a season where I had hurt my ankle that season, I had injured my knee that season. And to have seen the role that I was in, the main player just taken away from me, or the rug taken out under my feet, with a player that came in and was a superstar and played in my position, and it was sitting on the side, watching the game back then, really gave me an eye opener of how easy we can be replaced. And then last thing on the locker room hierarchy, contracts alone do not guarantee power. We know that contracts can get cancelled at any time, or contracts change and all of that, and that plays a major role in this. And so how tribal leadership is earned. Let's look at this. Power is taken, it is not given. Warfare and combat establish dominance. Resource control dictates decisions. Alliance building determines survival and success. And in today's sports, these modern principles still apply. And I'm keen to hear people's thoughts and people's comments in the comment section below on this, because do you feel power is given? Do you feel power is taken? Like, do you think that if you have resources and you can control those resources, do they dictate certain decisions, or how does that work? And so I'm interested to hear what people have to say about this. So these are the people I was talking about. LeBron James. If we don't know who LeBron James is, he is the basketball player. Just recently, I believe he has his kids in the game as well. And what a great example to us and to society on how do we build power, or representation of power, through the sport that we've had. Cristiano Ronaldo played for Real Madrid, played for Man United, now plays for Al Nassr, and he has all these moves outside of his soccer career, where he has, I believe, has a perfume brand, he has the underwear brand. Like Cristiano Ronaldo has all these things behind his name, but these were moves that he had structured for his career. Last one we'll touch on for today is Lewis Hamilton, the F1 driver. I'm not an F1, I don't watch the sport, but I love seeing my friends talk about it. And I often watch Lewis Hamilton ride, and it is insane how they are able to control those vehicles that are so fast. But again, Lewis Hamilton had secured his position in life through his influence in F1, or within F1. There's Patrick Mahomes as well, who moved, or these guys moved from competition to control. So competitors versus king. What do competitors do, or rely on, versus kings? So competitors rely on performance. Again, when I was playing, it was always a discussion after with the physio, or with the coaches, or with the players, like, what was the performance like? Did I perform? Was it good enough? And that was me back then, a competitor, relying on teams, relying on short-term deals, relying on whoever was backing me up behind my playing career. But kings, they build long-term power and influence, and that's where you want to head, whether you are going into sport, or currently playing sport, or after you are done playing. Like, what is the power and the influence that you have after? Because kings dictate the terms instead of reacting. So what is the key takeaways we can look at for today's chapter 2 overview? Tribal competition still rules modern industries. You need to be a master, or a master of your field, or a master of off-field dynamics. So not what you're doing on the field. What happens when you step off the field? What is the dynamic that you have? How do you control negotiations, and how do you control deals? Think beyond your playing years. Like, I am now at the age of, I will be 36 this year. And a lot of my thoughts are, hey, what am I doing now compared to when I played back then as an athlete and over the years? Because survival, I now understand, is, or was, or is not enough. I need to dominate moving forward. And how does that apply to you? So a few questions that I think about that I would love to share with you, for you to think about. Are you just playing the game, or are you actually controlling it? And then who sets the rules? Who sets the rules for the game that you are playing or controlling? Who controls the contracts? Who shapes the future of the industry? Because At this point in time, it's time to dictate your own terms. And so this is the book that I was talking about in the beginning. It is called The Power Ladder Athlete: From Survival to Absolute Power. This is a book that has changed my life. And this book you can find on Amazon. I'll share the link below, but also on our website called www.fasciolipublishing.com, which I will share in my description as well. And so, our final thoughts: when your playing days are over, will you still have power? And then, if you will still have power, if you don't have power, who will have power if you don't? If you don't build your influence now while the game is still yours, who is going to do that for you? Where can you find us? As I mentioned, on our website, fasciolipublishing.com. We also have some social media handles. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. Just search our name and you'd be sure to find us right there. Again, thank you for spending this time with me on sharing something that is important to me. And I hope that for those understanding or learning the lessons that come out of these webinars, and these structures that I'm talking about, that it can apply to you as much as it has done for me.